Vision Care විශ්වාසනීය දැක්ම.
සාධාරණ මිලයි විශ්වාසවන්ත සේවාවයි.
Former Chief of National Intelligence Cicera Mendes gave evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks for the seventh day yesterday. During the proceedings, the legal counsel representing Director of State Intelligence Nilantha Jayawardena asked the witness as to how he came to know that an attack had been carried out on Easter Sunday in 2019. Cicera Mendes replied that he came to know of the attack via a relative of his from an area of one of the blasts. When Jayawardena's legal counsel asked whether the witness didn't feel ashamed in being updated on such an important piece of information via a relative, Mendes said that it is normal to obtain information from a person in the vicinity of an incident when such a thing occurs. Then the chairman of the commission asked the witness whether his mobile phone was deactivated until the attacks since the day before. Cicera Mendes replied saying that his mobile phone was on silent mode since the evening of the 20th of April and that he did not have the chance to check the phone for incoming calls. Afterwards, it was the turn of former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando to give evidence before the commission. He was asked whether the intelligence information provided by a foreign source on the 14th of April in 2019 was discussed at the intelligence review meeting held on the 9th of April. The witness responded, quote, Nilantha was responsible for taking that information up for discussion since it was information received by him. The 8th of April in 2019 was a special day for the country's Ministry of Defence, since until then, the Indian Defence Secretary had not visited this country. The Defence Ministry was busy. It was in such a backdrop that the Chief of National Intelligence met me and informed of the piece of intelligence. I perused it and said that it is very important and asked him to tell Nilantha to take it up at the meeting the next day. At the meeting the next day, Nilantha during his turn said that Zahran's extremism is turning towards violence, but he didn't say that he is a terrorist. Likewise, he made no mention of the information he received on the 4th of April. Towards the end of the meeting, Cicera Mendes showed me the piece of information received on the 4th of April, which was in his hand. Then I asked Nilantha as to what was done about that piece of information. He replied saying, Sir, I have told the IGP. Another report is being compiled and it will be sent after completion. So I was content with it, unquote. Former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando went on to say, quote, by March 2019, Army Commander Mahesh Senanayake had told me that the State Intelligence Service does not provide information and that they are bypassed. I told him that I will give a reply after talking it out with the President, unquote. The Commission then asked the witness whether he discussed the matter with the President. Fernando responded, quote, No, I did not get a chance to talk it out with the President. A rift had been created between the President and me by external factions. As such, the President did not want to talk with me. Then IGP Pujit Jayasundara only participated in the first National Security Council meeting that I attended as the Defence Secretary. The President had given me instructions not to call him for meetings thereafter. Following the constitutional crisis of October 2018, both former Prime Minister Ranil and State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena were not invited to the Security Council. After the government change in October, I asked the former President whether to ask new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa to attend the Council. The President replied that it is unnecessary and said it can be done later, unquote. In any case, the former Defence Secretary said that PM Rajapaksa was not invited to the Security Council during the 52-day government. The state's Additional Solicitor General then asked the witness whether non-permanent members of the Security Council who did not receive special invitation attended the Security Council during his tenure of participation in the Council. Former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando responded, quote, One day, as we were seated until the President's arrival, we were surprised to see 4 persons walking in behind the President. They were representatives of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party the President represented, Dayasiri Jayasekara, Lasantha Alagewanna, Mahinda Amaraveera and Tilanga Sumathipala. They were not invited to the National Security Council. When Ranil Wickremesinghe became PM after the 52-day government, I met the President and said, Sir, even when Madam Chandrika became President in 2002, Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the Security Council. The reply was, No, it's okay to be called for that. I won't call him for this. By then, there was deep hatred between the President and the PM. As officials, we too were caught in that, unquote. The Additional Solicitor General then asked the witness as to what was the reason behind IGP Pujit Jayasundara not being called for the Security Council. The witness said, quote, During a Security Council meeting, then Chief of Defence Staff Ravi Wijegunaratne made a complaint against an officer of the Criminal Investigation Department, saying that a certain officer is attempting to arbitrarily arrest him. The President then told IGP Pooja Jayasundara to remove Nishanta Silva. Since what the President says must be done, the IGP transferred Nishanta Silva to Negombo. It was also communicated to the Police Commission in line with the due protocol. 3 days later, the President called me and asked under whose instructions Nishanta Silva was transferred. I told him that it was he who asked for it. He said he didn't ask for him to be transferred and slammed the phone down. Later, I went to meet with the President on several days. The President told me, "Look at what he has done. He has written to the Police Commission with reference to the Security Council." He instructed me not to call the IGP for the Security Council anymore. Accordingly, I communicated the President's order to then IGP Pooja Jayasundara. Instead of the IGP, Senior DIG Ravi Senaviratne, who was then in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, was invited to the Security Council. Unquote. The Additional Solicitor General asked the witness whether former President Maithripala Sirisena at some point asked him whether his head was not right. Former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando replied, quote, "Of course, on many occasions." Unquote. In the meantime, 5 individuals, including a lawyer, were remanded by the Colombo Magistrates Court yesterday for allegedly forging deeds and claiming a property owned by the Cinnamon Grand Hotel bomber.
Lever Ayush Karabu Neti Dantalepaya Shaktimat Datti Palakata